Well, a big g'day to all my mates out there in YouTube land. This is Sebastian from Sebastians Philippine Odyssey. Hope you're doing well and welcome back. I'm supposed to say don't forget to like, subscribe and share, but maybe you want to see the video first. Okay, so last night I had a bit of a restless night, and the last few days I did a video with Mark Thornton. Met up with him at Ground Zero, and he said, "Look, you want to do an update on what's happened?" And of course, I agreed. It was good fun. I announced something in that video that I got quite a lot of comments about, and that was basically me coming out of the closet. No, not that closet. My alcohol dependence closet. And a number of people were very gracious and gave me encouragement to stop drinking and keep sober, which is my full intention. Um, the the level of sickness that I got to towards the end before I gave up was nothing short than just horrendous. So 6 weeks going on 7 weeks now without an alcohol beverage. And as I said, a lot of the comments were encouraging, and a couple of them even mentioned perhaps you could do a bit of a video about this problem, which I'm happy to do. And I thought about it last night, and I thought, well, what am I going to say? I haven't really scripted anything. It's not really my scene to make notes, so I'm just going to wing it. Whatever comes in my little mind, I'm going to express. So it's going to be a bit of a mixture of how alcohol affected my life for the last 40 odd years. Um, some of the very bad decisions and events that took place, and I believe a direct responsibility from my behalf because I let alcohol take control. So when did it all start? Well, it's a bit of a shock, I guess, to a lot of people, but it started when I was very, very young. Um, my parents got a divorce when I was around 10 years old, and around 13, Mum thought it was time, after a bit of a healing process, to go out and find another partner, which is fair enough. She would go out on a Friday, Saturday night with her girlfriends and go to piano bars, as they were back there, or dances, and in pursuit of another partner, lifelong partner. So I was in the care of my sister, who has been a tower of strength and a rock through everything I've been through in life. My big sister, big shout out to Victoria. Love you heaps. So my sister was 6 years older than me, and she doesn't know any of this, but she was going out with a guy from a country rock band. And instead of us sitting at home eating popcorn and watching movies, we would go and watch her boyfriend play at the local hotel. Now, I'd go out the back with the boys. I don't know, 13, 14. And of course, inevitably, the guys thought it was a great thing to slip me a couple of beers, which I, graciously accepted. And we had a few cigarettes, and I don't know what else we were smoking. And as soon as my sister would come backstage, of course, we'd all hide the evidence. And that was back in the day. I think it was about 1978 perhaps. Remember the Eagles, Bob Seger, I don't know, who was else around, J.J. Cale, all that kind of music. So that was kind of the beginning. And then on when the guys weren't playing in the band, they'd go to different hotels on a Sunday afternoon, and we had what was called jugs. So they were big jugs of beer. And again, I'd slip a couple on the side. So that's pretty much the beginning of my drinking career. It escalated from there. Around 15, we had what was called back in Australia, we had under 18 discos or discotheques. So we'd all go down. There was a group of my friends from school would all meet up there. Uh, yeah, I think it would start about 7 or 8 and finish about 11. And of course, we had a group of about 6 guys, and it was our alternate responsibility to go to our parents' liquor cabinet. And of course, we couldn't take one every week, so we'd alternate around the 6 guys, and we would somehow smuggle out a bottle of whatever. It could be a bottle of red wine, it could be some vermouth or some vodka, didn't matter. And of course, we'd sneak out of the disco, and a couple of our older friends had cars, so we'd all pile into the back of the car and just pass the wine bottle around, until we all got drunk and threw up. And that was our big night out. Um, because mum was out and about, I'd say I'd stay at my friend's place, and he'd say he'd stay at my place. So after the disco, we'd go in the town. And what do we do in town? We'd find someone to buy us some beer. So it was just a progression that just went on and on. When I was about 18, the discos went from under 18 to over 18. In fact, I think I was about 17. So that was it. We'd go to discos, and I was going like I was an apprentice mechanic at the time, wasn't earning big money, but the majority of that money, and beer was cheap, like not like now. Um, I can't exactly recall, but I think a beer was probably about $1.50 Australian back then. Um, so again, what did we do? Practically every night we'd have a few beers, and then we'd switch over to bourbon or scotch and dry or whatever was going. So we progressed, and I did that. Well, I did that all of my life, going out to bars and nightclubs, and also around the age of 17. I won't go too much into my life history. I might leave that for another video. But I ended up in Central Australia, and for any of you that have been to Central Australia and out the outback, um, their main pastime when they're not working was drinking beer. And back then, the main brands were VB, Foster's, Carlton Draft, and West End Draft. But we wouldn't call them by their brand names. We'd call them by the colour of the can. So there was blue, white, green, and red. So whatever you wanted to drink, you'd ask for a blue can or a green can. And it was a big, big drinking culture. And I want to get into the culture of drinking. I guess predominantly Australia was settled by, which is, you know, a bit of a controversial thing, but mainly English, German, Irish, Scottish, um, can't forget the Dutch. But all of those guys were hardworking, working in shipbuilding, construction, and in the early days, miners. Now, they didn't drink very much. And of course, Australia had a big drinking sort of legacy culture that still goes on today. So my alcohol intake just steadily increased over the years, and it was every day. It was anything, I wouldn't say I'd be anything under 8 beverages a day, if not more. And it was, and most of my friends and guys I was hanging out with, it was just, it was normal. It was what you did. Um, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, uh, even until I've just given up. The guys here in the Philippines, even the Filipinos, drinking is definitely part of their culture. Although they tend to be able to, hold it together. They'll go to work, and there's a few guys that'll lay around the nipper hut and drink a bottle of Red Horse. But in my experience, most of the Filipinos go to work, and then after work they'll have a couple of bottles of Red Horse. I mean, Fiesta, well, that's a different story. The guys really get on it. So I guess Asia, Southeast Asia in general. I haven't been to Thailand, haven't been to Vietnam or Cambodia, but I hear and I believe that it's similar to Philippines here. And the thing is, alcohol is cheap here. It's very, very affordable. Um, for instance, in Australia now, what we call a pint of beer is about, well, it's close, I'd say 300 peso. So in Australian dollars, what's that? It's about nine Australian dollars, close to 10 Australian dollars. Here, I can get a beer here. It's gone up. When I first came here, it was very affordable, mostly around 20 peso. Then it went up to about 40, and now I think it's running at well, you can find about 60, 65 peso. So what's that? That's about $2. $2 a bottle of beer. If you want to get some rum, the Tanduay rum here, which is very popular, you can get a bottle for 60 peso, which is like $2, a bottle of rum. Um, so the drinking culture here, if you are a drinker and you're coming from America, UK, Australia, yeah, you can come unstuck pretty easily. And I know a lot of guys, not like I'm talking 5 or 6 that have passed away through complications of alcohol, cigarettes, and just overdoing it. Because it's so cheap and readily available. I mean, you can go to a 7-Eleven here 24 hours a day and get whatever you want, be it beer, wine, spirits, doesn't matter. So very, very readily available. A bit of a trap for those. In fact, I remember years ago when I first came here, um, one of the older guys said, well, you're going to come and live here. Um, there's going to be 3 W's that are going to get you. One of them's going to get you, if not all of them. And I said, oh, what's that? He said, the weather, the whiskey, or the women. Well, guess what? I got the trifecta. I got the whole 3. Oh, yeah. But so what happened to Sebastian after that? Well, after I came back from Central Australia, um, I finished my certificate as a dive master. I was always very passionate about scuba diving. So I went up to a place called Cairns in North Queensland, um, and I ended up getting my own dive contract on the Outer Barrier Reef, which was a fantastic life. But like everything, it became a job, and you had to get up. You had to be underwater for 8 hours a day, and I did it for about 5 years until we had the infamous pilot strike that stopped everyone from travelling around Australia. But again, very big drinking culture up in North Queensland, very big. So we would finish our diving and we'd drink from 6 o'clock until 2 in the morning, and then do it again. But the skipper and the owners of the ferry didn't know. As divers, you get a high nitrogen level. So what would we do early in the morning? We had the safety oxygen bottle that we used to use for any nitrogen narcosis or anything. So one by one, we were just sucking on this pure oxygen to try and get our alcohol level down. Don't worry, we had replacement bottles, but that was our little trick to try and get our nitrogen down. So let's talk about culture. Let's talk about drinking culture and how I thought it was quite acceptable, especially in Australia, and how it infiltrated so many industries or, you know, different types of lifestyle. And so when I was growing up in the 80s, there were a number of bands that I followed. One of them was a band called Cold Chisel. And the lead singer of that band was a guy called Jimmy Barnes, right? He was Scottish, but he lived in South Australia. Now, Jimmy would go on stage, and look, I'm not sure exactly what it was. I think he used to have a whole bottle of vodka, right? And he was our hero. I mean, to walk around, and be like Jimmy, all due respects, Jim. I've met Jimmy. I was his security escort for a day when he did a gig for all the guys that used to work at Holden in South Australia, automotive plant that shut down. He's married to a Thai girl, sorted his life out. He doesn't drink anymore. He's on the tofu and all the Thai vegetables and stuff. So good on you, Jim. You're an inspiration. He really turned it around. But the point I'm making is growing up in the 80s, the bands, the lifestyle, the V8 cars, the drinking was all part of it. Chasing the girls was all part of us growing up in Australia. It was hand in hand. That's what you did. You drank. And the more you could drink and the more resilient you were to drinking, the more of a role model hero you were. Now, about the culture, it also infiltrated into sport. So back in the 70s and 80s, one of the major sponsors of, uh, of football and cricket and other major sporting events was beer companies. You don't see that so much anymore, but it used to be everywhere. It was plastered around the side of the oval of the grounds. It was big, big signs, and it's big business. I mean, you know, I'd hate to think how much Sam McGill make here in the Philippines every year. It'd be huge. But getting back to the point I'm making, and that is beer or alcohol in general, with advertising in the 70s and 80s, and I think it started to slow down maybe late 80s and definitely now. Now you might see on a post-match presentation sort of TV chat show, you might see a little subliminal bottle of beer sitting on the coffee table while they're having a chat about, what happened in the game. So it's really been wound back, and has cigarettes. Like who advertises cigarettes now? But again, reiterating on the culture and the times that I lived in, it was all quite acceptable, and it was promoted heavily, to be a drinker. So that was it, and I didn't think there was anything wrong. Then I moved to the Philippines. Alcohol was very cheap, and if you did run into a problem, and especially girlfriend issues, relationship, it wasn't an excuse, but it was a crutch to drink more. And coming towards the end of my journey of drinking, and yeah, look, I saw a comment from Mark when Mark and I did the video, and it was look, it was something like, Sebastian talks the talk, but can he walk the walk? Well, guess what? He can. You know, I put my mind to drinking, and I was pretty good at it. So if I can put my mind to not drinking, I can do it. And what really was the clinch, the decision breaker was, I drank so much one day, and this is only a couple of months ago. I was so sick, and I very rarely would I throw up or be sick. I would drink from, I'd have a coffee, and my next drink was a beer. No matter what time I woke up, it could be 6, it could be 7, and I would drink. I would drink until I went to sleep. I wouldn't eat, no breakfast, no lunch. Um, Maybe at the end of my drinking session, I'd have a burger or something. And I was in a bad place. I was going to die. I was, I was slowly suiciding on alcohol, and I probably even knew it. I didn't have the guts to go and get a gun or get a rope or anything, but I was dying, no doubt about it. I didn't shower for days. I didn't shave. I was shaking. Um, I I even when I got out of bed, my legs were shaking so bad, I couldn't even really walk. That's how bad it got. And I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure there's guys, and if they are watching and they want to reach out, I'm no expert at this. I've only just started. I mean, some of the guys that left comments, they've done it for years. And one of them actually said to me, "Look, if you need some support, you need help, you want to talk to somebody, you know, feel free." So I'm saying that to you. You know, I'm just starting this journey. Um, I mean, I know Justin from Critter Hunters did a very brave thing, and he fronted his major eating problem, and you know, I see Justin often, and yeah, you know, everybody's got a vice, whether it's alcohol, drugs, food. You know, not everybody, but a lot of people. A lot of people have something they use as a crutch, and the day you sort of confront that and try and turn things around, it's a big move, you know. But I honestly can say right now, the reflecting back on how I felt just before I gave up, I was so sick. I don't want to feel like that again. And it's ironic because for years I didn't feel sick. I felt I just had to get back to that level, you know. So my saying now is, you know, one's too many and ten's not enough. You know, it's just that way now. I have to live with it. But I've discovered a whole lot of other drinks, and I think I mentioned, you know, banana smoothies. But I'm going to have to start cutting them down because even though beer puts on the weight, the banana smoothies, that's they're going to have to go. And so somebody said, you know, just get the calamansi, just the little lemon-like berries that they have here, native type lemons. Squeeze that and have that. Yeah, that's what it's come to. But I have to keep going now. You know, it's either that or if I ever get back, I'd die. I would die. So that's about it, guys. I thank you for a lot of you guys after Mark's video for giving me encouragement for the drinking. I mean, I didn't really. I don't know why I said it. It just came out about, you know, I guess I just wanted to let Mark know that, hey, you know, it's been 6 weeks now, I'm not drinking. And then it sort of just took on its own life. And then just last night I thought, well, you know, instead of running around showing you know, different resorts and all sorts, which I'll do again. I mean, there's no doubt. There's a lot more to see. Um, Not just Valencia, but I might give that a rest for a few weeks. There's a lot of other things around Dumaguete and Darwin and Sikior, and I'm sure you've seen it all before. There's many videos about all of that, but hey, that's where I am. So you know, let's do it, and not just about traveling, but you know, real life stuff. That's what I hope to bring to you. I don't have any really content. I just it's just in this little brain that sometimes I just want to talk about stuff, and I hope you guys, you know, happy to listen. Well, that's about it. Don't forget, I think you're supposed to like, subscribe, and share. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.